Today I'm making an alien egg. For this build, I used EVA foam, putty, paint, super glue, hot glue, cutting tools, sanding tools, safety gear, scissors, razor pens, and a box cutter. First I'm going to make a template so that I can better control the shape of the final product. This will be available, linked in comments down below. I got a large Easter egg from a craft store, specifically their clearance area, the day after Easter. That's the best time to strike. Just a tip for all the prop makers and cosplayers. Another tip for the Fallout guys, these make great mini nukes. I think I have a build for that. The end product will be even bigger than this, but this is fine to start out with. Next, I'm going to cover that in aluminum foil and make sure to compress the foil to match the curve of the egg as closely as possible. Side note, if you're making bunches of eggs, like a nest, like the queen's lair, and not all of them need to be open, then you could kind of just spray paint this gray-green and leave it at that, you know? Tutorial over. But that'd be kind of a cop-out of a tutorial for me. So why don't we put in a little bit more effort, you know? Once you do an R2-D2 level build, there's no going back. Although these templates will be way easier than those ones. So I covered it in gray duct tape. Then I used a black marker to draw lines down the side of the Easter egg and small hash marks every few inches that should look like rough cross stitches. Then I cut off the foil tape covering into quadrants. I took the cleanest of the four and laid it flat onto cardboard. I put some heavy metal blocks on it so that it would stay in place. You'll notice that I cut the cross stitch marks as triangles. Some people think that you're supposed to cut out the triangles. You don't need to cut out the triangles on the actual foam. It's literally just so that your marker falls into the hash mark point. Those will be instrumental in helping me line up the edges. Then I traced it onto cardboard. I'm using a red marker here, but honestly the color doesn't matter. I'm just using whatever shows up on camera in less than optimal lighting conditions. I'm still adjusting things in this workshop. It's a work in progress. It's a workshop in progress. When I was finished tracing, I cut it out with scissors. Next, I transferred it to foam floor mats. I weighted that down with a metal machinist block. Now you might be asking, why not trace the foil tape template directly onto the foam? Why make a cardboard copy at all? Well, since the foil tape template is flexible, no matter how careful you are, it's going to move around on you, and the registration triangles won't line up. Hence the cardboard. It's more solid. It's world-renowned for its stability. Cardboard is. I made 4 identical traces of that shape onto the foam floor mat. I cut those out with the work knife, which I continually sharpened in order to keep the cut clean and uniform. I'm also being careful to make sure that my blade is angled perfectly straight up and down. This will prevent any ridges or depressions from forming in the foam after I join the 2 sides. I did that for all 4 of the pieces. They should look like this. Next, I heat formed the pieces using my heat applicator. When it was sufficiently heated up, I pressed it over a planishing iron, or anvil, to help shape the foam into a curved piece, and then set the pieces inside of the Easter egg half to cool. This will help them retain their curved shape. Next, I glued all the seams together with super glue. Hot glue or contact cement will also work. I actually built one of these things years ago using hot glue, and it lasted years, but all of a sudden I need it again, and I cannot for the life of me find it. I was specifically using it as a plant holder for my aloe plant, and I tend to get burned in these projects, so I just have an aloe plant on standby. Must have gotten lost in the move. Can you imagine moving into a new place and opening up an attic or a cupboard and finding one of these things? Apartment hunting? You guys are apartment hunting again? What happened to the new place? We had to nuke the entire site from orbit. It's the only way to be sure. Okay, I don't know what that means, but good luck. Once all the petal seams were closed, I began gluing them into each other a few inches at a time. Here they are as halves. And then I glued those halves together. If you want the top to open up, then you should leave the top 3 to 5 inches unglued. This was a prototype though, so I didn't worry about it. I finished gluing all the seams, and now I have a basic egg shape. At this point I realized that it was a little bit too small for my purposes. I mean, scale in the Alien movies is a little bit all over the place. I swear the original one was smaller than the space helmets they were wearing, but then in Covenant, it's as big as a man. At any rate, I scaled up the template and repeated the process in order to make a larger egg that more closely matches my headcanon, you know? It's still not as big as a man, because I'm running out of space. clearly. If I'm losing props every move, I'm running out of space. But this to me looks right. This time, I didn't glue the top closed. I want to show this part though. Because the top is going to peel open and the inside will be visible, I have to get rid of that diamond texture. So I sliced it off with a crazy sharp box cutter, like a brand new box cutter, taking care to always cut away from myself. I'm sure what I'm saying matches the footage that you're watching. I'm making a point to mention it because a fresh blade will always cut through foam like butter. And if you're used to using the same blade and having to work a little bit, you know, your muscle memory might betray you and then you'll end up with flayed fingers. Definitely not speaking from experience. And you know, I have these great Carhartt gloves that are like indestructible. Be perfect for this, but can't find those either. Buried under boxes and props and more boxes. Hashtag maker problems. Hashtag moving problems, what that is. Oh, also, I'm messing around with camera placement just so y'all don't have to look at my cowlicks. And the camera's too high up for me to reach, hence all the crawling all over the workbench. Any cinematographers out there want to weigh in? I'm all ears. I found that a straight cut on EVA foam floor mats from a work knife can actually look like shale, which is not the texture I'm going for. So to smooth it out, I sanded the edge on my belt sander. I also rounded out the edges of the pedals. I did that 4 more times and then repeated all the heat forming steps from earlier when I made the smaller egg to make this one. I thought it still came out a bit too pointed, so I heated it up again with the heat radiating handheld device. Everyone who knows my issues with our robot overlords knows what's going on there. Why I just stumbled over that line. This has become a Soviet platform. Getting back to it, I put a heavy stoneware bowl on top of it, which will both weigh it down and hold it in a curved position while it cools. See, I can't use the same Easter egg that I made these from because it's slightly bigger even than that, and I'll end up getting a seam impression along the outside edge of the egg. When it cooled, I added a bevel strip to the edge of each pedal. Oh, you can also get these bevels at craft stores, by the way. It's Bojack, by the way. It took 2 strips to cover the full length. I secured it with super glue. I'm securing pretty much everything with super glue, although we do have some hot glue making an appearance in a little bit. After that, I did the same thing with a slightly narrower bevel to look like kind of a wrinkle in the surface. The surface is supposed to be kind of bumpy and mottled, so I added these foam bumps to each leaf, kind of look like scales, leathery. These were offcuts from the Pit Droid build. There were a lot of spherical joints on that build that just didn't sit right unless there was a flat surface to connect with the flat foam. So I sliced off these tiny little rounded bits and was like, I don't know if I'll ever find a use for this, but I'm gonna gamble. And here we are, a year later, and that gamble is paid off. Thank you, hoarding tendencies of past Jake, and let's be honest, current Jake. You're welcome, Motherberry. I'm not saying I'm not crazy, I'm just saying I'm cool with it. Once those were on, I used Alex Fast Dry Putty to fill in the seams. I wore a blue glove. I wore a damp blue glove. It's just water, which will help smooth out the putty without getting my fingerprints in the putty. You wouldn't think it would be an issue, but I have guitarist calluses crossed with carpenter's calluses. I have like Terminator 2, Arnold has to convince Miles Dyson that I'm a robot hands. Is that too deep of a cut? Okay. That's a pun. It's too deep of a cut. This is gonna make no sense if you haven't seen that movie. It's the best Terminator. Tried to watch the show recently. I just couldn't. Way too preachy. I'm sorry, Summer Glau. Just petition to make another Firefly sequel, you know? What were we? Oh yeah, calluses, right. I could be a hand model for a zombie. I do second unit for hand insert shots for Resident Evil movies. Horror movies are great, but I never watch them twice, unless they're from an Alien franchise. What are we doing? Making bioweapons. Right, here we go. For this next part, I used fishing line and washers. So I got those and hang on. There we go. That's like a ketchup bottle. That's not supposed to go in there. Oh, clamps. See, this is why I use peanut containers. Genius storage system. I am William Shakespeare. Bear witness to my peanut container storage system and tremble, Dewey, and your inferior decimal system. All shall love me in despair. Mad Galadriel energy there. I selected 4 washers that I liked the best and tied a length of fishing line to each of them, like so. See? See the washer? See the washer? Focus on the washer. Look deeply at the washer. Now, you will become a patron. Follow the link in the video description below and donate generously. Did it work? Or did I just inadvertently activate several dozen Cold War era sleeper agents? Oh, boy, moi. Okay, now I gotta go work on something else, and I don't want to lose these, so I hung them up on one of my many corkboards of plans to build a better workbench. They're safe here, that's not going anywhere anytime soon. Because I said I'd do it, and therefore I have years. Oh wait, no I don't, I actually did it yesterday.
Nailed it.
Next, I covered up the lower portion of the seams with hot glue. This will eventually look like a root or a vein, just something organic after it's been painted. So I kept that in mind while I applied the glue and basically just used it as a pencil to draw the vein on, like a three-dimensional pencil. I did that for each of the seams. Okay, so the fishing line is meant to be used to puppeteer the opening effect. However, the fishing line will likely act like a hot wire, you know, for cutting styrofoam, and cut right through the foam. Maybe not all at once, but eventually. So, I have to add a tunnel of solid metal through the soft foam. I accomplished this by using a metal tube. It's just a very, very narrow metal pipe. So narrow, in fact, that it didn't have the strength to hold up to the side cutters, and I accidentally crimped each of these sections while I cut them. So once those were cut out, I had to work it back open using a very narrow nail. Oh, you can get these in hobby shops, by the way, or hardware stores, or online. Or you could just use a bendy straw. But then what would I use to defend myself against ravenous snapping turtles? Not all animals are our friends, guys. I pressed those segments into the egg in order to make little tunnels for the fishing wire to thread through. Then I glued the washer into the tip of each petal. This may take a little while because the foam insulates the heat, making it take longer to dry. Longer than hot glue normally would, anyway. After each washer was attached, I did a layer of flat black primer paint. I'm using flat black as a primer this time because it will be easier for me to spot any small areas that I may have missed once the paint is dried. It sounds like I'm adding an extra step, but it's easier to see a mistake if the first layer is a flat finish rather than a shiny, ostentatious color. After it had dried, I identified and filled in the small areas that I missed on the first pass, mostly on the interior. And you know, this doesn't actually even take up that much time because matte colors tend to dry the fastest. Oh, I also did the bottom, where it was sitting on the tape. Then I threaded the fishing line through the metal tubes from earlier, now conveniently hidden by all the slop. So they go through the petal and then back into the side of the egg. Then I pulled all four of them down through the hole in the bottom of the egg. There's a hole in the bottom of the egg, by the way. To make sure that they all moved in unison, I tied them to an eye bolt, which I then screwed into a cork. Or whatever. Just something to grip on that's got more surface area than an eye bolt. Now I could call it done, but I mean this works, but I could also go the extra mile, or at least the extra 15 yards outside where I can spray paint. I certainly wouldn't say this is going as far as a whole extra mile, maybe a kilometer, I don't know. I just like the Imperial system better. They have Star Destroyers. So I took it outside to paint, never spray paint inside. The paint will hang in the air and then precipitate down and you'll lose your security deposit, speaking for a friend. So first I did all the red for the interior mouth parts of it, then I did some beige, partly because a base coat of black won't make the top coat pop, but also because sometimes the eggs are depicted as being beige. To me, I don't know, I see this and I think graboid, but that's just me. They change them every movie, I swear. After that, I did a top coat of green. This is more vibrant than I would have liked, but the advantage of using green is that I can easily alter it in post. Lastly, I used the most annoying aspect of the hot glue in my favor. I lightly dabbed the end of each petal with my glue applicator. Glue applicator, great. It's a great world we're living in right now. I know I'm not stepping out of line, and then tapped each petal, and in so doing, crisscrossed over the opening. The inevitable strand of glue created a spiderweb pattern, which makes the whole thing look organic when it opens up. Yeah. Yeah, drunk spiderweb, maybe. Yeah, he's getting pulled over. Do you have any idea how fast you were spinning? You don't know me. Just because there's 16 of you. You get it, because spiders have 8 eyes, so if he's seeing double vision, then it's multiples of 8 is 16. Yeah, I think we lost the thread, or silk in this case. And when the petals open, this will look like organic slime and add an extra layer of realism. And that's how to make the grossest of bioweapons. Now all you need is a robot who says he's trying to help, but I don't think he's trying to help. I don't trust you, Ian Holm. Liked you better in The Fifth Element. Thanks for watching, everybody. Do want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. Those are the names scrolling by. Their pledges support the main builds and improve improving the video quality and shop equipment, as well as allowing me to put together bigger and more exciting projects for you on the channel. And Patreon's especially essential for making the short films and cutaways, which everyone loves so much. It's like, yes, I can cut away to stock footage and kinda get the joke to work, but if I can film with real people and delegate the different jobs to other people who actually know about hair and makeup, it makes videos so much better. You know, my hair and makeup solutions are wigs, which not always the best solution. Yup, did we lose the wig? Yeah, we lost the wig. Ripley's not a redhead. Wait a minute. You don't have a late 70s perm. This wig comes right off. If you're interested in joining them and supporting the channel, then you can check out the links in the description down below for patron channel services, such as early uploads and limited ads. Alright, hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified of the future uploads, because there's more of them lately, but it's kind of at a totally random schedule. And let me know what other props you'd like to see me make in comments down below. Thanks again, happy crafting, see you later!